Honourable Member Eugenie Sage.
Was very pleased to see that the Deputy Leader of Labour had adopted the title that we had proposed in terms of this bill, the Denial of Democracy, and our title is "And More Irrigation Bill." And, Mr Chair, the current title of the bill reflects the spin that this government likes to create around its dismantling of regional democracy and of environmental legislation. And that's one of the reasons why 90 of the 95 submissions on the bill opposed it, because the people in Canterbury want the right to vote and they are being denied that for 6 years. People in Canterbury want better water management. This bill does not deliver that because it promotes irrigation and it kneecaps water conservation orders. It's led through the government-appointed commissioners to what Fish and Game has described as a very weak proposed land and water plan that those commissioners have notified and is currently open for hearings. That won't deliver improved water management because it won't control the intensification of dairying on the Canterbury Plains and the increased pollution that will result in. And nor is, as other speakers have noted, this bill about temporary commissioners given their long tenure. Why does the government want commissioners and not elected councillors other than to promote irrigation? There's another reason, Mr Chair, and that's because of the very autocratic way the government is going about the recovery from the earthquakes in Canterbury. If you had an elected regional council, you would have another democratic body challenging Sarah, challenging the Minister for Earthquake Recovery and their failure to genuinely engage with Canterbury people. But no, we have these commissioners, so you don't get that counterweight. Turning now to improved water management. If this bill was genuinely about improved water management, that would mean that after nearly 3 years of the commissioners, we would have had a reasonable flow in the Selwyn-Waikirikiri River instead of a largely dry riverbed. Improved water management would mean an adequate flow in the Rakaia by reducing some of the abstraction from that river, so that we don't have the risk of the river mouth in the Rakaia closing as it did last year. Improved water management would mean that outstanding rivers such as the Huranui and the Clarence would be protected by water conservation orders rather than the kneecapping of that instrument that this bill achieves by completely changing their protection and preservation purpose and by not allowing appeals to the Environment Court and having them recommended by the Regional Council rather than a special tribunal. If this bill was genuinely about improved water management, as its euphemistic title suggests, we would see a stabilisation or a decline in the levels of nitrate nitrogen in our aquifers, not an increasing trend, as Environment Canterbury stated the environment monitoring has shown in a number of bores. If the bill was genuinely about improved water management, it means that river flows in rivers throughout Canterbury would be sufficiently large, sufficiently variable, as is part of the natural character of braided rivers, so that we don't see more incidents of the toxic cyanobacteria algae that we have seen recently in the Huranui River, which, Mr Chair, is a definite sign that we are not getting improved water management. Improved water management would be about people in Canterbury having no fear of swimming in our rivers without getting some nasty stomach bug, without coming into contact with the toxic cyanobacteria. This bill is not about improved water management. It's about more irrigation and more water pollution. And it's interesting, Mr Chair, when we've seen the Minister of Local Government want more rigorous performance measures or the former Minister, for local councils. This bill provides no objective measures of what constitutes improved water management in Canterbury. There are no measures of the limits of contaminants in waterways that one might expect as a measure of whether we're heading towards cleaner streams. there are no measures of improved water quality in the aquifers. So the bill's title is a complete misnomer for the denial of democracy that it promotes and the kneecapping of water conservation orders and the very different law that applies under this bill to rivers in Canterbury in relation to water conservation orders than elsewhere.
I call the honourable member Chris Ockenbold.